Representing the struggles faced by minorities in art encourages understanding for individuals worldwide. This is most evident through film, specifically science fiction films, and how they represent minorities through their depictions of extraterrestrials. Jonathan Abbott from GBH states, "Accurate, authentic representation can break down barriers, open us up to new ideas, create powerful role models, and even be a source of inspiration." Simply put, representation in film can be used to foment cross-cultural understanding and spread empathy for individuals in different contexts than our own. The sci-fi genre both films are set in is highly relevant to the discussion, as it utilizes a futuristic setting to represent and reflect on contemporary issues. Representation can come in many ways in film, considering the versatility of the art form in the way it conveys messages and ideas. The method of representation chosen for this investigation is the usage of extraterrestrials as a stand-in for a minority or vulnerable community. This is distinctly shown in the science fiction genre, as it utilizes extraterrestrials to convey heavy messages about ideology on vulnerable communities. Avatar is a futuristic sci-fi film set in the 22nd century, where humans have taken to the colonization of the stars in the search for resources for economic development. As they arrive on the resource-rich planets, the heads of the human operations destroy anything in their path, including the native population. This is a clear allegory to the colonization undertaken by European settlers in the 16th century. Director James Cameron envisioned the world of Avatar as a play on the lost world genre of literature. He envisioned it as a story of self-discovery with an emphasis on imperialism and man versus nature. The Na'vi species of aliens are put in the position of the vulnerable indigenous tribe of a faraway land, as they face the existential threat to their way of life due to the technologically advanced humans utilizing their resource-rich planet for their benefit. The film portrays the Na'vi as the heroic and aesthetically pleasing underdogs of an unjust invasion. Cameron shows the Na'vi's perspective through the film's protagonist, Jake Sully, becoming one of them and a part of their culture. Conversely, District 9 occurs around 30 years after 1982, when an alien vessel arrives in South Africa seeking refuge from their dying planet. They are placed into a refugee area to live, but as society and the aliens can coexist, there begins to be conflict between the two parties. The film by Neil Blomkamp is a thinly described allegory for the apartheid regime that ruled in South Africa from 1948 to 1994. The title refers to District 6, a real area in Cape Town, which is a scene of significant damage to the black community under apartheid rule of racial segregation. The aliens in District 9 are portrayed as the pathetically unfortunate victims of an unfair system of society controlled by humans. They are constantly discriminated against and derogatorily called prawns, due to their resemblance to Earth's marine creatures. Both films are highly relevant to the chosen topic, as they are both similar in concept but differ in the subtleties of their deep structure and execution. The subtopics of the presentation of the alien, the protagonist's transformation, and the hierarchies of power will be discussed in order to gain a full understanding of the director's intentions with the aliens and in what ways they reflect vulnerable minorities. Avatar and District 9 use lighting and mise-en-scène to create the designs for each respective film's aliens, contrasting them with the humans and creating parallels with real-life, historically vulnerable communities. The bright and vibrant colors are characteristic features that define the Na'vi species. From the establishing shots of the movie, Pandora is shown to be lush and full of plant life, akin to the rainforest of Earth and devoid of any modern technology. Prelapsarian in essence. The first interaction of Jake Sully with a member of the Na'vi species, Neytiri, takes place in a colorful, bioluminescent forest. The contrast of the soft blues and purples of the Pandoran forests, with the sterile and modern light grays and blues of the human laboratory, suggests the natural and traditional aesthetic of the Na'vi, going against the modern machinery of the invading humans. In District 9, the prawns, as they're called, are first presented in a dark environment as the camera encroaches on the massive aliens as a spotlight from the flashes shows their dark, brown colors. The lighting and colors utilized by Blomkamp to introduce the cockroach-like prawns represent the negative and derogatory way humans see them in the beginning, similar to how the white settlers viewed the African natives. The way in which the aliens are characterized differs in both films, as it serves as a representation of their contrasting syntactical meanings. Syntax, as defined by Rick Altman's genre theory, referring to the arrangement of surface structure elements to create deeper meaning and interpretations. The Na'vi in Avatar are a utopic species, literally connected with nature and its environment. Their costuming is based on historical tradition and indigenous wear, like Mesoamerican indigenous communities. On their blue skin, Cameron states, "I just like the color blue. It's a good color. Plus, there's a connection with Hindu deities, which I like conceptually." Cameron aims to portray the Na'vi species as idyllic and indigenous heroes in contrast to the exploitative and aggressive human antagonists of the film. District 9, however, portrays the prawns as more gritty and realistic, highlighted by the documentary-style interviews at the beginning of the film. Brown and dark colors dominate the frames with the aliens, as does their hefty frame and stature, similar to the Na'vi. They look distinctly inhuman, more analogous to cockroaches, and ultra-racist subtext to native Africans, or to other insect species.
Extremely malnourished. They were very unhealthy.
This distinctly non-human portrayal of the prawns is an intentional choice to represent the racist way in which white settlers saw the native Africans, as separate from them and characteristically inhuman. Avatar depicts the Na'vi as a utopian and idyllic indigenous society, physically very similar to humans, with soft colors and intricately crafted designs to make them the vulnerable underdogs to human aggressors. Conversely, District 9 shows much grittier and less human aliens, and through their design, portrays them as less relatable, reflecting the complex historical background of South Africa's apartheid system. The variance in their representation of these aliens symbolizes the different aims of each filmmaker, but both ultimately with the goal to utilize these alien species to represent vulnerable minorities. Avatar and District 9 both use editing to highlight the contextual differences in the implications of both of the protagonist's transformation to the alien species, thus showing the implications that this has on the protagonists and the characters around them. The editing in Avatar also suggests this newfound freedom that Sully has acquired. The scene with him running through the training camp on his new body has a long take, with Jake running for around 6 to 7 seconds, uninterrupted with minimal cuts, and anywhere there are cuts, they focus on Jake's feet or the environment around him. Furthermore, this scene cuts back to Jake's immobile human body in his laboratory. The long shots of Sully running, and the cutback between his human and Avatar body, is done by Cameron to express the freedom that not being a human brings in this story, and contrast his human state and his Na'vi state. This shows Cameron's desire to represent the human body as a limitation, and the alien native Na'vi body as a key to freedom. Furthermore, the shot where Neytiri sees Jake in the human body for the first time utilizes framing to push humans as the more vulnerable party. This is representative of the indigenous communities being more adapted and having more freedom in the lands they live in. The colonizers, white settlers, being at a strong disadvantage. District 9 utilizes editing to show the disadvantage of Wikus due to his new state with his prawn transformation, making an allegory to the treatment of Native Africans during the apartheid. Wikus begins to transform into a prawn, beginning with the metamorphosis of his left arm into a prawn-like pincer. Wikus is departing for testing to be able to utilize the prawn-specific weapons, and the editing reflects the distress and powerlessness felt by Wikus. The editing pace is frenetic, and the entire scene is shot in a documentary/found footage style, with rapid cuts between not only the distressed Wikus, but also shots focused entirely on the alien weaponry that the humans are trying to tame. Blomkamp's editing style is meant to reflect Wikus' distress in being forcibly taken in for testing, a reference to apartheid South Africa, in which the government could forcibly take in individuals for interrogation and questioning with no evidential basis. Section 17 of the General Laws Amendment Act No. 37 allowed for detention for up to 90 days for the above stated reason. This historical parallel is performed by Blomkamp in order to highlight Wikus' desperate situation. Cameron shows transformation of Sully as both an aesthetic and an ethical process, giving freedom not only to Jake but to the rest of the characters with the Avatar bodies. This relates to a post-colonial advocacy of the indigenous societies and their knowledge systems. This is done through the editing and utilizing the medium of film as a method of expressing the crippled Jake's newfound freedom in the alien body. In contrast, Blomkamp shows Wikus' transformation as something negative that brings distress and horrible effects. This is done in the film in order to represent Native African struggle during apartheid, and thus creating a strong historical parallel with the prawns as minorities. Both films utilize sound design to express the alien-centric power hierarchy established by the characters in each. Avatar morally places the Na'vi on top, while District 9 shows the prawns as the victims of an oppressive human government regime. The culture and society of the Na'vi is different from humans, specifically their usage of language. Their language was intricately designed with the help of linguist Paul D. Frommer, and in turn, they have their own version of names as well. All of the Na'vi characters haven't pronounced their way in their language, and they're never westernized. The individuality in their names and their willingness to bend to the settlers' language is a way in which Cameron uses the sound to design the Na'vi to put them ethically and epistemologically above humans. This could be seen as a fascistic societal structure due to the uniformity and rejection of the other in the Na'vi, as author John Marmitz describes in his book Cinematic Nihilism, Encounters, Confrontations, and Overcomings. Furthermore, Norman Spellman, another human scientist, is seen teaching Sully not only the basics of the Na'vi language, but complex idioms and ideas.
I'm seeing you in front of me. I see into you.
This relates to the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, stating that language dictates how one perceives the world. Contrary to this, Blomkamp utilizes the characters' names to characterize them and to reflect how they have bent to the will of humans or oppressing them through the usage of their power. The prawns are never established to have a proper individual names, and they have shown to utilize English human names. The prawn that helps Wikus survive is called Christopher Johnson. The prawns taking the names of humans is a direct representation of how black slaves would take on the names of their masters after emancipation in order to better integrate into society. They would either take on the names themselves or stick with the name that was given to them by their masters. By creating a direct parallel between the prawns and slaves, Blomkamp creates a rigid and colonial/imperialist structure with humans on top and the prawns at the bottom, as the oppressed and subjugated minority. In the analysis of aliens descended from minority groups in sci-fi films, Avatar and District 9 have a contrasting approach in the portrayal of their struggles. Avatar has an optimistic and alien-centric view, which places them above humans narratively and thematically, while South African-made District 9 focuses on creating a strong parallel with real-life historical context of apartheid South Africa, and other examples to represent their marginalization and subjugation by hierarchy. All three subtopics chosen are relevant to the discussion of the topic, as they all reveal the director's intentions and their usage of sci-fi as a genre. The presentation of the alien clues the audience into how they should be viewed in the context of the story. The depiction of the characters in transformation reveals how the film and the characters perceive the alien race, and the hierarchies of power established in both expresses what the director's overall view of the alien life forms, either glorifying or pitying the status of the minority indigenous race from a post-colonial perspective.